So, recently I've seen a lot of talk about Caleb Maupin. Oops, I just put this thing in neutral. I've heard a whole bunch about Caleb Maupin recently because of various things he's been tweeting about, like the concept of abolishing billionaires. Usually kind of said tongue-in-cheek, but things just aren't really that fucking simple. Anyways, I've been hearing a lot of talk about him, and I generally try to avoid this stuff, but because I am not a fan, particularly a big fan of him, but and there's reasons why. But for those of you who might not know who he is that are watching this first time, never hearing of him, let's see at least what he has to say about himself. This is an animated intro to his channel. This is not him. This is not him speaking, by the way. He like commissioned this video or some shit, and like that's some like a narrator.
Politics these days. You've probably heard of Caleb Maupin.
What did I just turn
who
left?
is Caleb Maupin? A journalist, political analyst, TV personality, and author. Caleb
Volume
is a 21st
adjustment.
century socialist and advocate of international friendship and cooperation. He first rose to prominence through socialist organizing in Cleveland, Ohio. In 2010, Caleb attended a student walkout protesting teacher layoffs and filmed an instance of police brutality against two African-American high school students. The introduction of his video footage as evidence in juvenile court resulted in a verdict of not guilty for one of the two young women.
Now, this is all good stuff that he did. I'm not gonna deny that. That is like a net positive for society, or no, I mean, that is like a positive thing that Caleb Maupin has like done for society in his life. But let's just keep watching.
Cleveland Scene magazine describes Caleb at the time. The 22-year-old is chatty and affable. When it comes to talking politics, he's obviously done his homework. Facts, dates, obscure legislation, the fates of forgotten labor leaders, snippets of protest songs. In part, he's learned the game as a careful student of history, but he also sees himself as an inheritor of the radical tradition. In 2011, when the Occupy Wall Street movement took root in New York City, Caleb was at the center of the action. At the first General Assembly, he gave a fiery speech built around the phrase and idea of class against class.
Notice
he
this
also
was
urged the Occupy
video was pretty
movement to
quiet,
take a
so I
stand
turned the whole thing up.
against the bombing of Libya, at a time when most leftists weren't even aware of it. After Occupy, Caleb decided it was time to get a haircut and start traveling. Soon he was speaking at important conferences in Iran, Ecuador, Venezuela, Brazil, and Russia. In 2013, he led the Hands Off Syria protests, demanding the end of American efforts to overthrow the Syrian government. Appearing on CNN, Caleb urged President Obama himself not to launch a new war. In 2015, Caleb was invited to join with the Red Crescent Society of Iran, delivering medical supplies to war-torn Yemen. The rescue ship created an international incident, and Saudi Arabia bombed the port of Hodeidah 8 times in a single day to keep Caleb and the small group of medical volunteers from arriving. Since
it's really fucked up.
Caleb's writing has been translated into a number of languages. He's been featured and quoted on China.org, Forbes, The Nation, Democracy Now!, and many other outlets. He works as a reporter for the International Television Network, RT, and his work is viewed by millions every day. Caleb never turns down an opportunity to debate in favor of socialism, whether against liberals, conservatives, fascists, or anarchists. Caleb Maupin is a Marxist, anti-racist, and feminist. He opposes all forms of oppression, but he's also a Christian and a patriotic American. He remains critical of the pessimism and destructiveness found in some leftist circles, and urges the American left to rediscover the traditions of class struggle and anti-imperialism. Caleb's book, City Builders and Vandals in Our Age, has been described as a groundbreaking analysis of capitalism and geopolitics. He's now in the process of forming a think tank called the Center for Political Innovation that aims to expand the conversation about how the USA can get past the crisis of greed, wars, and market-spawned chaos. The slogan and message that Caleb wants to popularize is, "We need a government of action to fight for working families." If this sounds interesting to you, do yourself a favor. Subscribe to this channel and start engaging with what Caleb Maupin has to say. He's got a unique socialist perspective formed by real-life experiences in the class struggle. Check out his website, calebmaupin.com, and stay in touch with him on Facebook and Twitter.
People are not asking the right questions. They're not asking...
God damn it, ads. Ads are the bane of my fucking existence. But let me just drive around this fucking accident scene or whatever the fuck that is. Get back up to 80 kilometers. Oh. Oh no, I just crashed my fucking car. Shit. What the fuck am I doing? Alright, I gotta skip this ad real quick. Shut up, shut up, shut up.
Decades. Well, now China is doing something
This
different.
is from RT.
Experience over the past few decades. Well, now China is doing something different called a social credit system, and it's expected to be fully functional by the year 2020.
Yep, social credit system.
To help us out, we are joined by conservative TV and radio host Steve Malzberg and RT correspondent and China expert Caleb Maupin. Gentlemen, welcome.
China expert. Wow, what a fucking wank fest. We already knew that from his from that like intro, from that animated channel intro, this dude really likes jerking himself off. But his YouTube doesn't even like have that many subscribers. I'm pretty sure this guy gets like paid off by a bunch of I would not be surprised if this dude's being paid off by the governments of a bunch of handgun the fucking like shill for the bullshit. There's another word that begins with the letter S that I, like, wish I could use to describe how he, like, shills for the Chinese government. But recently, Twitch stupidly banned it in one of the most misguided decisions I have ever seen that company make. Anyways. Yeah, one could already basically tell that the whole, wait, that's right, make that entrance. But yeah, it's incredibly obvious that this guy very much enjoys like jerking himself off a bit. A lot of people do. It's kind of there's a bit of a degree to which it's like not surprising. Anyways, let's just listen to what he. I'm sorry, I was getting distracted by driving this fucking truck. Let's just, let's listen to what he has to say about the social credit bullshit.
We love covering China, and Caleb, you talk about it about every other day, and good on China for making such great economic progress. But one of the things we always question around here are the numbers. That's what I say. The numbers matter. They're important. In China, we actually question more about those numbers than other countries, just given the closed society. And like if the GDP numbers are correct, if it's based upon real data that we maybe can't see. So I suppose there are sort of growing pains in China opening up here, and I'll attribute the skepticism by some of these numbers to the growing pains. But at the same time, this new social credit system seems to be trying to fill a gap in numbers that do not exist at the current time, and that is things like credit scores for millions of Chinese who have no or very little such credit history.
Right,
so the Chinese government is creating this new system. Steve, explain it to us. How does it actually work?
Well, okay.
Let's hear what he has to say about
Orwellian
that.
in nature, and
Yep.
it's right.
Hey,
out of a science
Imoto, what's
fiction
good,
movie, and
dude?
to me, it's very scary, and it goes well beyond the financial credit scores. The way I see it, the numbers that are important are 1.5.
So what we're watching, I'm just playing a truck simulator while we're watching this cringe tanky named Caleb Maupin frequently goes on RT to like defend the Chinese government, like here he's gonna defend the social credit system. And this is the first time I've ever actually watched this, so I'm very curious as to how he's actually going to defend it. Like what kind of rhetoric is he getting? And while we're doing that, I'm also going to drive a bunch of Christmas presents from Bern to Strasbourg. I got myself American and Euro Truck Simulator, and it's like a fun and rather relaxing time. Well, kind of relaxing. Sometimes, especially sometimes in this one, traffic can be. Europe and streets are tiny and whatnot. How the fuck are your Christmas and New Year's, dude? Thanks for coming and run by. Sorry about my fucking rambling.
5 billion people are going to be spied on, surveilled totally by the Chinese government with the help of 230 closed-circuit television cameras, facial recognition, artificial intelligence,
that's dystopian as
algorithms,
fuck.
and basically it's to monitor and keep score and keep tally of good things they do and bad things they do. And based on the number of good and bad things, you get a trustworthiness score. And then
Dirty Commie Rat, how you doing? That's right, he's like basically a nazbol. I always forget that description always applies to him. The reason why is because rather than like, I always imagine the nazbols as being like, because of the history of like where that comes from, I have such a hard time imagining nazbols as like anything other than Russian guys. Like that word, I don't know that much about like the history of Nazbolism, but I know that the word originally comes from like the national Bolsheviks in Russia, who were this like weird combination of tankies and Nazis. You could almost say it's the most radical form of radical centrism. No, that was a terrible joke. I'm sorry.
Use some of their data. But is it a concern? I mean, do you think that they're going to the point where it's really more, social engineering, where they're trying to control and coerce the population, as opposed to just a real credit system as we know it, like in the U.S. or in the EU?
Well, Bart, I think it's pretty clear such a system would never be implemented in this country. Our legal system is very different than China's. So is our culture. So is our history.
Yeah, we at least pretend to have. We are a bit better at pretending we have respect for basic human rights.
This move, and the argument that they make is this: they say, look, everyone knows that American corporations.
Because people in China will usually go to prison if they say otherwise, like Liu Xiaobo. That's what happens in countries with dictatorships, like when people are like, what, Vladimir Putin's popular in Russia? God damn, that truck is driving. Generally considered Nazis taking the aesthetics, rhetoric of some leftism while being fascist. And it's like really a shame that this guy's like this, because like some of the stuff he like jerks himself off about in his fucking channel intro are like actually like good things for society. Like just a couple of the things, like when he was young, when he like filmed an incident of police brutality being committed upon like an African American teenager, and then the fucking evidence being presented in court, like, got that kid off the hook and maybe got the cops in trouble. I forget the whole... Where the fuck was I going with that? Oh, yeah. But yeah, this dude's really just become such a fucking piece of shit. And, Yeah, it's kind of pointing out the obvious by saying that a social credit system will probably never be a thing here, because maybe it will be a thing here if we let people like him or people like Donald Trump keep being in charge. Sorry, I'll keep playing the video.
And fire people, demote people, promote people based on their values. They look for people that are promoting their values and put them forward, and if somebody's not promoting their values, they push them backward, or maybe they don't hire them, or maybe they get rid of them. You know, that American corporations function in accordance with their values. Well, in China, the largest economic entity is the government. The government controls the banking sector, it controls a lot of the key industries like steel, cell phone manufacturing, and a lot of folks in China say, hey,
and it's like, dude, here's the thing though, is that's not like, this is all like having the state own everything isn't like actually isn't actually like the workers owning anything. Like, it proclaims itself to be like what China proclaims itself to kind of ultimately be its end goal. And it's especially not actual, it's like the furthest thing from worker ownership when, like, people are living in this like, complete fucking dystopia.
You know, why doesn't the Chinese Communist Party that leads the government have the ability to reward people? If people go and visit their grandparents, if people choose not to drink too much alcohol, why don't they have the right to then reward those folks? And on top of that, with the Chinese Communist Party leading the economy, if someone is working against the Chinese Communist Party and trying to derail them and trying to hurt them in the process of carrying out their goals, why should the party be obligated to subsidize them? Why should they be, you know, working to help out individuals who work against them? That's kind of the way they see it, is, you know, the Communist Party has certain goals, and
I'll drink as much as I I'll drink and get high as much as I goddamn please, and I don't want the government, I don't want some giant, like, overlord estate to reward or punish me for doing that, so long as I don't, like, drive a motor vehicle and kill somebody or something. What the fuck is going on? Is this... Or wait. Oh. Why is that closed? Where the fuck am I going? I am really just kind of mind blown that people like this actually exist. It's like, holy fuck, how authoritarian must you be if you want to, like, have people constantly being spied on for the government to, like reward or punish them for, like, drinking too much booze or something like that. Or, like, you know, being like, I'm not really sure if I'm cool with this new policy. Oh, I just lost social credit points. Like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck are you talking about, Caleb? This is so fucking ridiculous.
it wants to reward those who are helping work with them and maybe not help out those who are working against them. Now, it's also important to point out that a lot of the way that this is being reported on in American media is somewhat questionable. There's a lot of people around the world who have a bone to pick with the Chinese Communist Party, and they say a lot of things that can't completely be verified. You know, if you go to Miami, there's a lot of Miami Cubans that'll say all kinds of things about Fidel Castro that then if you go and visit Cuba, they don't exactly add up. So not everything here can be completely confirmed. And obviously such a system would never be implemented here, but China has a different approach, and I think a lot of Chinese people actually support this move.
Steve, what do you want to say on
that?
But
Caleb,
point?
Well,
have you ever thought maybe it's because of how much the Chinese government intimidates opposition out of speaking up?
Supermarket, as you're putting things in your wagon or your cart, and give you a score based on that and decide whether to hire you or fire you. They don't monitor who your friends are and who your friends' friends are and give you points as whether or not to hire or fire or keep you based on that. And that's what this system does. So it's hardly analogous to saying that the Chinese government is the employer and they have a right to do what our employers do. Our employers don't go that far, at least not to my knowledge, and I hope
thank you so much, guys. We appreciate
debatable. It depends on the employer. Not all of them do.
Maupin and Steve Malzberg. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Bart.
Hey, folks. So I'm here in Red Square, and
Phone is too quiet to hear right now. Just wanted to stop by.
Confusion about what it actually
Thank you, I
means to be
appreciate it. Yeah,
socialist
you
or
have a good night.
communist. You know,
You have a
the
good night,
communist
Comrade.
candidate in this latest election, Pavel Grudinin, he himself is a billionaire, and I've heard many people say, "Oh, you can't be a socialist or a communist if you're a billionaire. That doesn't make any sense." Well,
all right, so anyways, yeah, so we just heard a little example of Caleb Maupin talking about why the Chinese social credit system is a good thing, which that dude that was like making the case against the Chinese government was there was also a degree to which that guy was also like understating the degree to which like people in the United States are tracked by corporate interest and shit. However, here's my argument about, here's the whole argument I make relating to this is it's not like America is this like wonderful free nation and China's like the big bad evil. America and China actually share various like they face very similar societal ills that have just manifested themselves in different ways due to the present material conditions in the countries over time. One of the differences, though, is that the Chinese government is a little bit more overt about the dystopian shit. Here in the United States, we have all sorts of problems with police brutality and fucking political corruption and politicians and giant corporate interests and CEOs and board members of giant companies and shit, all basically just being involved in this giant fucking circle jerk all the time. There is one difference in that I can actually sit here and talk about this and be like way less afraid of getting like scooped up and taken to like fucking prison or some shit than I would be in the People's Republic of China. And that's why it kind of blows my mind when people, and this idea that a social credit system would be powered by this giant state centralized monstrous apparatus. I'm sorry, I'm like struggling to find the right words for it. But the idea of that is, how the fuck can one argue that that's less dystopian? How can one fucking argue that that's really any like different or at the most less dystopian than something like in the United States, where we have this like political system of jerk-offs, and there are social consequences to things like there's plenty of conservative business owners who would totally not fucking hire me, and conservative HR people who would not fucking hire me if they knew I was like as far left as I am. But and then the whole thing, we're in the fucking capitalist world where everywhere people are basically fucking wage slaves, and especially people who defend like American capitalism, modern state, are basically either the people who perpetrate it or wage slaves of Stockholm Syndrome. But this doesn't mean, this will never, ever, ever, ever fucking mean that living in some place like China is going to be better, regardless of how well off you are. You're still, even if you are like still decently taken care of, it's still going to be an issue for the... God damn it. Why is it so why the fuck do we have to sit here and explain this concept of like, no, there should not be this monstrous state apparatus that polices people's every fucking move and offers out like rewards and punishments for it. That's fucking absurd. And that goes beyond the whole economics argument about like Marxist versus anarcho-communist versus like neoliberal economics or anything. Anyways, yeah, so now another thing is Caleb Maupin is making this case. The billionaire communist, there's no contradiction. Let's at least hear what he has to say.
Let's get facts straight here. Socialism and communism is not about poverty. It's not about wanting people to be poor so it's more fair or something about that. Socialism and communism are about organizing the economy so that it works for the benefit of the people. Right now we have an economy in the Western countries that is completely controlled by profits and markets. It's all about making money, and in the process, people get left behind. Our streets are falling apart. Our bridges are not secure. Water isn't being purified. And at the same time, technology is advancing, and instead of making a
God, I am such a terrible truck driver.
It's eliminating jobs, and it's making people poorer. As society and technology advances, people are getting poorer. That's the problem with capitalism and socialism and communism. The idea behind it is that we should control the economy, that the banks, factories, and industries, the major means of production, should operate for the purpose of making society better.
Is that actually the case in China? And does the public, do the workers, the working class actually have control over it? Or a creepy political class like in the United States?
Have a controlled economy so that we can secure people's livelihoods, and in the process people might become very wealthy. There's no contradiction between people being wealthy and socialism and communism. The idea is that there's nothing wrong with people being wealthy, just so long as they're making their wealth through making society better overall, not getting richer by making society poorer and holding back development. And that's the difference.
Also, the wind blowing in his mic is pissing me off. Like, dude, if it's that fucking windy, record inside.
In China today there are many billionaires, and this Pavel Grudinin, he's a billionaire, but he works with farm cooperatives. He runs a cooperative, the Lenin Cooperative. He provides healthcare and education to people, and he's expanding this kind of cooperative or collective farm enterprise, which is controlled by its workers. And that's how he's acquired his wealth, is by directing
I call bullshit. Remind me to do some research into that guy later.
This cooperative. So the idea that socialism is all about poverty, that's just completely false. And I actually wrote a book.
I mean, the idea that socialism is about poverty is completely false.
You can get it now on Amazon.com. It's a collection of a number of my essays, because everything you think you know about
this dude's idea of a society is a fucking nightmare.
I think that the reason that we're increasingly seeing lots of poverty in the USA, the reason the country is falling apart, is because of capitalism, because we have an irrational economy. And I think with a socialist economy in the United States,
not wrong,
many Americans could become very wealthy. And the reason that we're getting poorer is because a small group of billionaires and bankers have rigged things to keep getting rich, while the rest of us get poorer. And I think it's time for the United States to get rich without capitalism.
Correct.
You should read my book. You should check it out. On the cover, I interestingly put, we talk about the hammer and sickle. That's an old symbol. People aren't out there with hammers and sickles anymore. But what is a symbol of socialism and communism? Well, I've got the Chinese high-speed railway. Right now in China, the state-controlled corporations have the fastest trains in the world, advancing technology and making people's lives better in the process. So that's what's on the cover here. So getting rich without capitalism. Check out my book. I'm here in Moscow, but I'll be back in New York City soon. So all my best wishes to everyone.
Alright, holy fucking shit, that was really annoying how his mic was being that whole fucking time. Like, what the actual fuck was that? But, like, Jesus Christ, if it's that fucking windy that it's gonna sound like that to record outside, why not just record inside? Like, what the fuck? That was torture to fucking listen to. I apologize. Brian's having to listen to that. I'm sorry, one moment. But anyways, Yeah, I actually find the rhetoric he's using in some of these videos dangerous, because that last one seemed a lot more innocent. What he was leaving out is that this idea of what he proposes with how he, like, endlessly he defends the Chinese government and is advocate of a style of their government and whole political and economic system there. I find it, like, actually incredibly vile and dangerous, the rhetoric that he's using, and not that it's, like, violent, dangerous, but how it's like making it look so innocent, actually having the balls to claim that, like, their economy is worker controlled. When it's like, these billionaires are running companies that have factories that have, like, suicide nets in the fucking window, that have, like, suicide nets and shit, because so many people try to kill themselves, and they, like, have mandatory overtime, and, yes, Nerylus, perpetuating the propaganda of, like, the worst fucking, of some of the worst fucking people. And I've even heard more, like, I've heard, like, other people say, like, China has lifted, like, an enormous amount of people out of poverty, and it's like, but fucking look at it, like, Jesus fucking Christ, we gotta figure out something, like, better than that. Like, yes, there are a lot of rich people in China now. They do it the same way that American billionaires make their billion-dollar-plus fortunes. They're unfucking believably exploitative. So it kind of blows my mind that this guy's basically the equivalent, the, like, fucking tanky, the fucking, like, basically, as Kami Rat was saying in chat earlier, basically like a nazbol. Yep. Yeah, they'll appeal to the standard communist, and also even more so to, like, people that just, like, don't know a damn thing and are vulnerable to being, like, roped into the like, Chinese cult of state and personality that is the Xi Jinping cult. Yeah, it is. Let's play this next one about socialist billionaires. Let's see what he's explaining.
Hello, friends. If you look at Middle America right now, a lot of folks aren't doing too well. Right now, across Middle America, there's a lot of low wages. The next generation of workers is facing a standard of living that is nothing like what their parents had. Furthermore,
all true.
At the same time, the good-paying industrial jobs that once defined the American dream have been eliminated. All across the United States, homes are foreclosed, formerly prosperous neighborhoods are dotted with empty homes, with boarded-up houses. There's a crisis of opioids. There's a lot of hardship, and while there's a lot of hardship and the standard of living is dropping in the USA, there's a small group of billionaires that's making out pretty well. I mean, you look at these payday lenders. As people struggle to pay their bills and pay their rent and all that.
Payday lenders are the scum of the earth.
People these predatory loans and kind of suck the
Again,
money out
another
of
thing
people,
Caleb
even
Maupin is
poorer.
not wrong about.
But
this is why he's so fucking... This is why people like Caleb Maupin are actually, like, so fucking dangerous to, like, leftism and society as a whole.
The insurance companies that push doctors to overprescribe opioids, really playing into the epidemic that we have of addiction. You can go down the line. There's the prison industrial complex. Poverty increases, crime is increasing, criminal activity is increasing. So, there's some corporations that have figured out a way to turn locking people in jail into making money, and they get contracts from the government to lock people in jail. The prison industrial complex. You can go down the line. Right now there's this huge boom in oil and natural gas production across the USA because of hydraulic fracking. However, so many parts of this country that are so poor are producing huge amounts of natural gas. They aren't getting the profits. People in Pennsylvania right now, oil and natural gas is coming out of the ground, but Wall Street bankers...
Are people getting the profits in China?
and Wall Street oil companies are getting rich from it, not the people in those states. You can go down the line. There are billionaires in the USA right now. They own the major parties. They own the politicians. They depend on contributions from them. The media is in their pocket. And these billionaires are getting rich while America and average, ordinary working people are getting poorer. That's the reality, right? So we can all agree that that's capitalism. We don't like that. That's a system based on profits. You know, the economy is set up to serve these billionaires. They're making profits. They're, you know, making the
Wonder
world
what he thinks
poorer,
China
sucking
does.
profits out of working people. It's a bad setup. But for just a moment, I'd like you to imagine a hypothetical socialist United States. Imagine that with all this oil and natural gas production that was going on in the USA, the profits weren't being owned by small corporations or big corporations. The profits from all the oil and natural gas being produced in the USA right now were actually going to the country. It was state controlled, and the government was using the proceeds from this oil and natural gas.
State controlled, eh?
To build new universities across the country, to provide free health care to the population, to build new high-speed trains and highways, to start funding research and advances into technology, to give a decent life to people. Imagine that was what the oil and natural gas was being used for, because it was state-controlled. And imagine that all these, auto plants and steel mills that have closed down because they're owned by private companies. Imagine that they were under state control, and the workers who worked in those plants, they had job security and they had a set wage because that was a state-controlled industry, and it was owned by the state. And so people were guaranteed protections on the job, and furthermore, they had job security because it wasn't just based on whatever the owner felt like doing. It wasn't based on
Holy shit. This guy's actually pretending that this is what, what socialism with Chinese characteristics is actually about.
Profits. Instead, it was a state-controlled industry. That's the difference between capitalism and socialism. Capitalism is an economy in which a small group of owners, those who own the major centers of economic power, the economy is set up to serve them. It's an economy based on profits. That's what capitalism is. Socialism is when the government forces the economy to work for the public. Socialism is a rationally planned economy where common sense dictates economic activity, and there's a central plan, and the economy is forced to work for public good. So now that we've established that, now you have this hypothetical socialist.
How fucking long is? Oh Jesus Christ! We're only 4 minutes into this. Holy Mother of God! So here's one problem with what he's saying is when state-owned industries, especially in something like China, where it's like everything is the state. But he's acting like in China, the billionaires are even closer connected to the fucking politicians than in the United States. Or just about as much if you really want to stretch it. And half of them are the politicians. Literally, like, all of the billionaires in China, for the most part, are people who are, like, really good friends with Xi. Or were good, or in the past were, like, good friends with fucking, who was the last guy, like, Hu Jintao or something like that? But, especially in a system like Chinese tankyism, the, socialism with Chinese characteristics, tankyism with Chinese characteristics. The whole thing is the state monopolizes all the Communist Party monopolizes all political power. They monopolize all political power, and they control all, and then the party guys and their allies control all industry, and it's basically even more hyper-capitalist now than the now it's hyper-capitalist. It's just state capitalist. All of the capitalists are people who are in with the state, even more so than in the United States, because they're just blatant about it. They are not even behind closed doors about it. They just masquerade it as as like industries and companies working for the public. Shit. Yeah. What the fuck did I just do? Ouch. Hey, yeah, let's hear more of what let's hear more of what the tank guy. Fuck me. Let's hear more of what the tank guy has to say.
USA in your mind. Well, this hypothetical socialist USA in which the oil and natural gas and the industries and banking was controlled by the state, in such a country, you know, it would become a big problem if no one was buying that oil and natural gas. So, can you imagine that there might be somebody whose job it was to go around the world and find people to buy that oil and natural gas that we would be producing in our state-run industry? You know, and they would go around the world and set up deals, and so people could buy oil and natural gas. Or maybe they set up deals with different oil and natural gas companies around the world so that we could buy their technology and use their technology to make our oil and natural gas production more efficient. Or imagine with those state-run steel industries that we had somebody whose job it was to find us people to buy that steel, or maybe people to consult with, people to come at those steel mills and tell us how to make them run more efficiently, so those who worked in them and had guaranteed job security, you know, they had less work to do and were more safe on the job and had things a little easier because the steel
safe on the job in China, really?
Right? So imagine you had a person whose job it was to go around and kind of set up joint ventures, or imagine that there were people that ran hotels and restaurants, and yes, the banks were run by the state, the oil and natural gas was run by the state, the major industries were run by the state, but somebody wanted to open their own restaurant or their own hotel. Well, if you can imagine those people, that's what a socialist billionaire is. If you look at Isabel dos Santos in Angola, if you look at you know, people like Jack Ma in China, or people like I know this guy Wang Jianlin, I'm sure I'm butchering the name, I don't speak Chinese,
And those guys are extremely exploitative.
Owner of Dalian Wanda Corporation, which owns AMC movie theaters in the USA. These individuals are individuals who have gotten very, very wealthy, but they've done it in coordination with the centrally planned economy. In China, you know...
And you do that in China by being friends with the fucking politicians. And especially Xi.
Everything that matters is run by the state. The steel industry is run by the state. Banking's run by the state. You know, the biggest telecommunications manufacturer, it's technically private, but all the board are all people in the government. And, you know, you can go down the line. Anything that matters is run by the state. But there are people whose job it is to go around the world and set up joint ventures and business deals and arrange for more prosperity to come into the country, and arrange for the state industries to flourish, and arrange for opportunities to continue to grow and revenue to come into China. You know, it's this kind of state-run, centrally planned economy that has made China very wealthy, but in order to do it, they've had to bring in foreign investment, and they've had to arrange for different companies to kind of cooperate with the state-run economy. That's why today in China, you know, the world tourism industry is having a boom, because people in China are now have this very prosperous lifestyle and are going on vacation to places like Paris and London and New York City. And it's because of that you know, that China has really lifted its head and lifted 700 million people out of poverty. You know, they did it with a planned economy, but in order to do that, they needed to bring in foreign investment. Isabel dos Santos in Angola, you know, this is a very poor country in southern Africa. It has a state-run oil company. For 27 years, there was a civil war going on because
the Angolan war was bad.
A group called
The Angolan Civil War was a fucking proxy war. Was a proxy war between the fucking United States and the Soviet Union. He's acting like it was just the United States that was like doing machinations there.
UNITA, that was you know, fighting against the government led by a guy named Jonas Savimbi, and hundreds of thousands of people died. They finally got peace in 2002. And Isabel dos Santos, she has worked with the state-owned oil company, and now Angola has its own cell phone company, Unitel. And she's been going around the world bringing in investment to Angola, helping businesses to be set up in Angola that function in coordination with the state-run oil company. which she was the director of in 2016. And now there's this huge campaign against Isabel dos Santos in the U.S. media. Why? Because when she was directing the state-run oil company, she refused to let American corporations control the natural gas. She said, look, our Constitution says our natural resources belong to the people, and she wouldn't let ExxonMobil and BP and foreign companies that had joint ventures with the state-run oil company have the natural gas that was being discovered in the country. Furthermore, she required foreign companies that were operating in Angola to hire and purchase their supplies domestically. She said, look, if you're going to be in Angola doing business, you need
I don't
to
really
do
know
business
enough
with
about this to
Angolan
comment.
companies. And for that, she has been subject to a smear campaign. CNN said that she was being investigated for corruption when no such probe existed. They've now confirmed, but she's been subject to a smear campaign. Now, Isabel dos Santos has become very wealthy. Jack Ma has
This
become
may
very
well
wealthy.
be, but
There
that
are
like
many
doesn't mean
people in
she
these
that
socialist
doesn't mean
countries
she
who
doesn't
work with
suck.
centrally planned economies and go around the world trying to bring in foreign investment, setting up joint ventures, and they have become very wealthy. But you can't compare them to people like the billionaires and monopolists in the USA that have been getting wealthy by making the USA poorer and making the world poorer. You can't compare them at all. These are people whose job it is to work in coordination with the state-run economy, bring in foreign investment, set up deals, and bring their country up out of poverty. The richer that China becomes, the richer that Angola becomes, the richer people like Isabel dos Santos become, the richer people like Jack Ma become. Their relationship with the state-run, rationally planned economy is a good one. They use their innovation and their skill at going around and setting up deals and doing business. They use it to help everyone by helping the state-run, centrally planned economy. And that's a difference. You can't compare these people to the billionaire bankers and monopolists in the West that get rich by
the guy
making the
does
world
look a bit
poor.
like Gavin
This is two
Belson,
different groups
except
of
he has like
people.
super red
And
hair.
I must say, there's this
But he looks
illusion
even
out
more
there.
like him in black
all my
and
life,
white.
I remember when I was in school, they always taught us, communism means everyone gets paid the same wage no matter how hard they work. That's not the reality. Every socialist country has had some level of income inequality. Socialism is a rationally planned economy in which the economy is forced to serve the good of the public and public good, not the interests of profits. And communism is a higher stage. Communism is like an ideal. The idea is that after thousands of years of socialism, eventually the economy will develop so much, there'll be such efficiency in production, there'll be like a 1-hour work week, there'll be no crime, there'll be no need for any kind of central government. People can kind of just do what they want, take what they need. It's something that we can't even really imagine. It's very far off in the future based on such an extreme state of material abundance. But that's communism. But socialism is a rationally planned economy. And socialist billionaire is not an oxymoron. There are people who become wealthy by working to make a centrally planned socialist economy more prosperous. And there's nothing wrong with that.
This is just the same rhetoric that people use for free market bullshit. This is basically the same rhetoric for invisible hand economics, but replaces the invisible hand, except it replaces the invisible hand with the fucking state. Alright, there's how many? There's like 3 minutes.
And this isn't my main point, but it must be said. Part of the reason that people in the USA have been so effectively brainwashed to believe in capitalism is because they've been told that socialism and communism is about taking away what they have. Workers in the USA, they work hard their whole life to have a house and a car, and they're told, those socialists and those communists, they want to take that car away. They want to take that house away. They want to make everyone poor and equally so it's fair. Well, that's not the reality. Communism, socialism is not about poverty. It's not about making people more poor. Socialism and communism, the ideal, the goal of any kind of socialist society is to increase the level of prosperity by getting rid of this setup where the economy functions to serve the greed and the wishes of a few billionaires and not the public overall. Socialism brings human reason and democracy into economics. That's what the idea is. So the idea that socialists and communists want to make people poor and take away their property, that's false. The slogan of one of the very important populist leaders in the USA who was very effective was a guy, Huey Long. And he had a slogan. It was actually a slogan used earlier by William Jennings Bryan. He said, "Every man a king, but none shall wear a crown." Well, think about it. That's the kind of socialism that the people of the USA could come to understand, right? People in the USA, they like to work hard. They like to have visions. They like to, try to build a better life. And if you tell them that socialism and communism is just all about, redistributing poverty, they're not going to buy into it. But the understanding that socialism is about working hard and bringing people out of poverty and building up abundance and building up an ideal society, but doing it with a rationally planned economy and getting rid of these profit-hungry capitalists that are just wrecking the place. If you can explain that, and that socialism is about every man a king, but none shall wear a crown. Everyone has a decent life. Everyone has a fulfilling life. Everyone has a decent house to live in and a school to attend, and everyone has a job where they can wake up in the morning and believe what they're doing. If you can tell them that that's what socialism is, if socialism is about bringing everyone up, not bringing most people down in order to make it fair, if you can put forward that vision of socialism, people are much more likely to hear it and listen to it and understand it. So we need to get beyond this idea that you can't be a billionaire. The socialist planned economy in China, which has created many billionaires, has also made China the second largest economy in the world and lifted 700 million people out of poverty. They now produce more steel than any other country in the world. After the Civil War was over, Angola has had just a huge and unprecedented amount of growth. They're still a very poor country, but at one point their GDP rate of growth was 11% in a year. That's unheard of. Well, they did it with a planned economy, but it was a planned economy that allowed for foreign investment and allowed for small companies to exist as part of this centrally planned economy and in coordination with the state-run industries and state-controlled natural resources. This is the kind of socialism that works, and we need to kind of get beyond this idea that socialism is poverty or socialism is just some kind of egalitarian society where everyone's poor, but it's fair. This is not what socialism is, and that's not a vision that people in the USA are ever going to get behind.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so let's just do a little drive to Luxembourg to talk about all the problems with this. So, a serious problem I have with the shit Caleb Maupin's pushing is that a lot of this stuff he's saying he's right about, like the state of the American worker and whatnot. But he is blatantly lying about the conditions of things in China. In China, workers have next to no fucking rights. There's little to no collective bargaining. The state has, like, a very disturbing degree of control over, like, everything. And we saw it earlier. Caleb Maupin shills for that social credit system, which is, like, an extremely dystopian thing, having these cameras, like, watch your every fucking move, and then these government guys sitting there, like, ugh. This idea that this way that this is, like, an actual, like, society, like, working for the workers, where, like, people are getting like unfathomably rich because they're, like, really friendly with the government, and then people live in this, like, weird dystopia where they, like, can't speak up about anything or they'll end up like Liu Xiaobo in prison for the rest of their lives or is this idea that is, like, actual worker ownership of an economy, having this, like, totalitarian state that where the party in charge has completely monopolized political power and all economic power in itself. Like, what the fuck kind of... That's not a fucking worker-owned economy in society. That's a bunch of bullshit. This guy is a bullshitter. Caleb Maupin's a bullshitter, he is a very dangerous bullshitter. And like Donald Trump is a bullshitter. I'm sure that Caleb Maupin knows that all of this shit. I'm sure that Caleb Maupin knows that all of this shit is just like, that all of this acting like this is all so good is a big fucking lie. He's doing it to fucking get people in, to have people be like in favor of his benefactors. Which are like the Chinese government, RT. It really fucking disturbs me that there's people who sit there and listen to that guy endlessly like act like China is such a great fucking place where people are like so free and happy because even though there's this like tyrannical government, oh, it takes such good care of them. Because once again, in any society that's like extremely totalitarian, in any society that's super fucking totalitarian like that, there's usually a tendency for people to publicly support it in wide numbers simply because of intimidation or fear or just plain brainwashing. I think Caleb Maupin knows that. I just don't think he gives a shit. What bullshit is it isn't just lies. It is rhetoric that is intended to persuade people with complete disregard for the fucking truth. And that is what Caleb Maupin does. But when he is bullshitting about, like, straight up extremely totalitarian, about things involving, like, totalitarian control society, that's just fucking dangerous. Have to be like, my dude, what is going on here? Yeah, in a society like China where the political class has monopolized all political and economic power in itself to such a degree, in a similar way to like how the capitalist class is done in the United States, just even more blatantly. How the fuck can one argue that that's like the peak? Fucking ridiculous. And cut. That's it for the Caleb Maupin talk. Not really sure what else to say about them. Or, well, I'm gonna cut the Caleb. I'm gonna cut the... yeah, I'm not really sure what else to talk about now. How you doing tonight, Narrowless? Thanks a lot for coming by. I really appreciate it. God damn, I just spent so long talking about fucking Caleb Maupin. Sketching up sketching up your druid groves. Druid groves, that's fucking badass. Oh, I wonder how fat the toll. Or Kick-Ass's Maze and Gardens. You'll have to send me this pic. Sounds sick. Hell yeah. Yeah, how fucking ridiculous. How fucking ridiculous was that bullshit we just watched? Yeah, that was literally just like... Yeah, basically the gist of what Caleb Maupin was pushing was like, Daddy She knows what's good for you. Daddy state capitalists know what's good for worker. They must have all power for the good of worker and society to eventually have true communism. That's utterly fucking absurd. Yeah, that dude is... I haven't really watched, like, that much of his shit. I think I watched him, like, debate Vosh once, but, like... Yeah, I forgot the degree to which that guy is a fucking... He's a fucking nazbol. He's a fascist appropriating, like, certain left-wing talking points and rhetoric. And did you see the dude's fucking animated intro? It was such a circle jerk. Or it was such a... His, like, animated channel intro is this 5-minute video of him jerking himself off about how he's, like, gone to all these places. Yeah, the animated intro is just like, it's so cringe. Ooh, less than 100 kilometers away from Luxembourg now. Right now, I'm just trying to... Oops. Yeah, of course. €34. Damn, that is a fat toll. Sorry, I blanked. I just didn't really know what else to say there, but yeah. Basically, what I'm in favor of is just, like, actual worker cooperatives, not, like, this shit where, like, the billionaire works with all these, like, supposed worker cooperatives that are actually existing in some really weird, like, dystopian fucking cringe society state. Luxembourg and Liège. Yeah, I oppose the extremely totalitarian shit. Ultimately, you could say I'm like an anarcho-communist, but certain ways. An anarcho-communist or like an anarcho-syndicalist. I basically think all businesses should be worker co-ops. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it is like ultimately a utopian ideal thing. But yeah, the better way to worker co-ops are definitely a better way for the workers to are definitely a better way for having like a society that protects like civil liberties and whatnot, that where the economy is like primarily like controlled by like cooperatives, and basically gives the workers more ownership of the economy directly, rather than just with these gigantic state-owned industries like China, or like state-related industries where people are making like billions of dollars off. Thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, then you might enjoy one of my live broadcasts over at twitch.tv/BeerBashJohnson. And if you would really like to support the channel, go on over to my Patreon at patreon.com/BeerBashJohnson. Both of those links are in the description below this video. And I wish you a wonderful day. Fuck. I can't speak right now. God damn it.